Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of Humanist Chat. You got your hosts, Ovais and Soul here. Today's episode is actually going to be about the Texas abortion issue. So, Soul, how are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How are you?
Good, good. So we have a pretty heavy topic to talk about.
Yes, we do. Yes, we are going to address the great state of Texas and this new law, I suppose.
The very first episode we addressed the abortion issue, and I think I talked to you about it. That it was actually Jonathan and I, and I thought that it was. Now that I look back on it, it was two men talking about abortion, which I didn't. Now that I look back, I would have done things very differently. So, let me ask you, as a woman, um, and as a ICU nurse, what is your opinion about this whole deal?
on the on the facts of abortion in general, I would expect that this be a healthcare service that's provided up until a certain point. Um, it is our right to choose. It's our body. We can do what we please with it. And I agree that it should be a service that's provided. Once it gets to a certain point, it's maybe a bit unethical, but there's about 0.2% of abortions that ever make it past, I think it's like 5 months or something. So that's not necessarily something that needs to be put into law, because if there's going to be any reason to go that route, that would have been addressed by that time, such as risk to the mother, such as risk involved with the baby, such as change in living situation, or if you decide that you don't want to be pregnant anymore, you would have to consider that prior to 5 months. I would think that a person would consider that prior to getting halfway through the pregnancy. So fully support women who choose that option. I've worked in institutions that have not provided any type of abortion services or sterilization services, and I just fully disagree with that as well, but that's a whole other topic. So from my perspective, that this law is not only unconstitutional, but it just flies in the face of what our country is supposed to be about, which is having free will and rights and be able to do what we please and whatever. But I guess it only applies to certain situations, certain people.
Yeah, and that's we have listeners who are and members of Humanists in Healthcare who are overseas, a few in the UK, and this is and I emailed them asking their opinions about this. They've been really surprised. I know a lot of people who are. I feel like the country's divided. I know a lot of nurses even who are just like, "Yay, this is a good thing," and others like, "No." And I don't know. Like, I guess for me, it's explaining this whole deal, like for people who are like you and I who don't believe in things like souls and other thing. I just realized soul doesn't believe in souls. Um, but I use the argument of for surgeries where we have to do amputations and things like that. We wouldn't call them wrong because even though because those are skin cells, and so why are we looking at like haploid and diploid cells? Like, the Catholic Church views haploid cells as a form of life. Um, and why is this issue so big? And I don't know. So what do you think would be, first of all, a response to that person that says you're killing a human life?
I can understand why they might think that, because we'll eventually grow into that. But a collection of cells, a zygote, if you will, doesn't have the opportunity to uh, make choices or speak or have feelings or have thoughts or have opinions. So it's it's like a, I don't know, it's just like a collection of cells. It doesn't have a way to be independent of another person. So I can't consider it to be a entity of itself that has a soul or whatever, because that's just not how that works.
And I would agree on the same lines, because I mean, don't worry, in the human body, there's a lot of collections of cells. However, it's like they definitely are life. I mean, if we go by the biological definition of life, they
Mm-hmm.
definitely are. However, we wouldn't consider it a form of life that is like, something where like, okay, like it's not we're not gonna call somebody a murderer because of that, you know. Is that, and I mean, if we even like go by that definition, um, any woman who's had a any woman, because if you even think about the female menstrual cycle, you're releasing an egg, and unless each one of those menstrual cycles you've gotten pregnant, like you've had a pregnancy, it's like okay,
Every
like
time that's a murder, every time, every month.
yeah, that's always kind of been my issue about the Catholic Church is like that's they go after the male contraception, but it's like, oh, what about this other situation?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, there's just so much to unpack there. Like, for me, and I think the worst part about the whole deal is like this whole kind of like Texas bounty hunter thing where somebody in the comments, please correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I understand, it is if you know somebody who's gotten an abortion past 6 weeks in the state of Texas, you can sue them, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know.
As a plain citizen, yeah, you can sue them. I just don't understand why that would be necessary. And it goes all the way down to like every person that you came in contact with that day, including the person who drove you to your appointment. It just, it's just, it feels like it's giving them every opportunity to get back at us for what we're doing or whatever. And it's like when you're it's like when parents are getting divorced and they're like, well, I'm going to take all your money, I'm going to take your house, I'm going to take your car, I'm going to take your kids, I'm going to take your dog. They just want to get every last drop out of it that they can, it seems.
Do you think it's because the state of Texas, I guess, feels wronged in a way by women, or
I've never been to Texas, but there's some stereotypes that fit this model of just like an old fashioned way of thinking, you could call it. I know that realize that doesn't apply to every single person in Texas or every area in Texas even, but that's that's the reputation of that state is it's very old fashioned thinking and old fashioned way of life and like that. So with that mentality comes less rights for women and less control for women and many other things, but those two in particular.
yeah, and it's interesting because it's so I've been to Texas a few times and I have friends in Texas. And the areas I've been to are actually pretty far liberal, and most of them are very liberal, and I would like the places I've been to. I mean, even in this past election, they thought about Texas even being a possible toss-up state. It wasn't definitely. It was not considered one of the red states. However, it's just kind of one of those things. Like, for me, it's a it's the fact that you have such a high population of liberals, but they're only concentrated in certain areas. You're not getting that accurate representation.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that we have so many people dying of COVID. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm almost 100% sure that the deaths of COVID were probably higher than the number of abortions um, in Texas in this past year. Um, in fact, if anybody in our audience, or else I will look this up myself when I have time. If you could look into that, we would appreciate it, and we'll probably have you on our show. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I think that that's the thing that upsets me about this whole deal. Um, what do you think about that?
I feel like it's just putting a blanket statement over pregnancy in general. Like as soon as you get pregnant, despite the way that it came about, despite your age, despite whether you wanted or not, your economic situation, despite all of that, you're going to be punished for your actions because I feel like Catholic Church especially, but I feel like a lot of churches have this like purity culture about them to where you have to, wait till you're married and whatever, which is fine if that's what you want to do, but that's not what other people do. So if you break the law of God and have sex before you're married and you get pregnant, you have to be punished for your law breaking. So you can't do anything about it, and you can't go back because you made that wrong choice, and now you have to live with it forever. And the fact that there's no exclusions for victims of uh, you know
Rape and incest.
yes, there's no PS for them. There's no, you don't have to live with this. And so if the person who was a victim is going to be forced to continue on with their pregnancy and have their child and whatnot, what happens to the person who did the abusing? Do they have to pay child support? Do they have to serve any jail time? Do they have to, uh, you know, be responsible, held responsible in any type of way? Because that's a whole nother topic about holding people accountable for their actions. Um, so I've seen some chatter on Reddit about it, and I've read the comments, and seen some people saying how um, you're looking at it all wrong, and there's always a blessing to every situation stuff, and I, I know. And I just don't understand how someone who's potentially having their entire life changed, not being able to do what they, want to do with their life. You only get this one life. How that's considered a blessing.
So annually, every year for my birthday, I always do a fundraiser for the National Abortion Fund. Um, it's part of me being a prior, very religious Christian myself. I, I think I love the irony, but two, I do think that nobody should be forced to keep a pregnancy who can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And this year I've gotten a lot of private messages, and for my friends on Facebook and who see this, I mean, you know who you are, who's messaged me, and yes, I'll answer this question. I know I had a son recently, and I love him very much, but but I still will raise money for this fund.
The percent of women who have abortions who live below the poverty line is over half,
Right.
and over half of the women who have abortions already have children. So if these women are going to end up in jail because they had an abortion in Texas, what happens to their children?
It's just crazy, like how people will believe anything without looking into the facts. Like, when I was in nursing school, one of my classmates went around to saying, she tried to explain to other students, it's like, in some places you can have an abortion 3 weeks after the baby is born. Actually, no, 3 days. Sorry, my bad. 3 days.
That doesn't make it much better. Interesting.
In your expert nurse's opinion, and I'm a male nurse, what is the difference between abortion and infanticide?
Oh,
I'm,
infanticide. That is an interesting topic.
no, that could be a topic on its own. But
It could be, definitely, definitely. We'll get to that one for sure.
the sad thing is there's people who believe this, and unfortunately, it is what's going on in Texas right now. So let me ask your opinion about this. There is a good bit of the population who are in support of this bill who are women, and they would come to you and say, "Well, I'm a woman as well. I've had this experience, and I don't regret having my baby." What would you say to them?
I would be happy for them that they not regret it, because that would be a difficult thing to live with, that went through all of that and you regret having your child, and now you're with that child and that is what it is. So I'd be happy for them that they don't regret it. Um, but anecdotal evidence of a single situation does not apply to all. Um, I know that there's a statistic out there about the percents of women who regret having their children. So what do we say to those people?
Yeah,
Uh, I can understand that maybe the fear made them think a certain way, and then when they got through it, they found out that it was okay for them. And for those people, we are grateful, and that they were able to get through it, and they had their child, and they did not feel the negative effects, as in any like postpartum issues or economic issues or any regret or any other forms of mental anguish post birth. So the my answer to them is good for you, but that doesn't mean that anyone else is going to have your same uh, experience.
yeah, I agree. I think that's we got to let everyone live by their experiences, and I mean, it's to me, it's a I think that the issue of trying to quantify an embryo to the same level as a baby is also needs to be taken into account.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think I saw a meme on Facebook, that if you have you know if you saw somebody holding an embryo in one hand and a baby in the other, a petri dish with an embryo, and they dropped it, which one would you save? You would go for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
If not, I mean, if you think that the embryo is life is no different, then you would have a hard time making a choice. And I
Mm-hmm.
also like so I actually want to address something you posted. I saw today about the whole. What would you say for these people who care more about your rights to not wear a mask versus taking away women's rights? So I'd like you to talk about that one.
Yes, I will. Um, that argument makes me crazy, because if person A doesn't wear a mask and they are positive for COVID, then they risk infecting other people and potentially killing other people. If person B is pregnant and just chooses to have an abortion, they aren't potentially infecting other people and killing other people and affecting anyone else in their life except for them, because it's their body whom they are dealing with. Um, when I hear people who are pro-life say my body, my choice in relation to masks, it just makes me think that, for one, they don't understand what we're saying at all. And for two, um, it's my body, my choice when it comes to what I do and don't want to do. But it's not your choice when it comes to what you do and don't want to do because of how I feel about it. So it just pushes this idea that I can cherry pick what I want out of a movement and forget the rest because that's how it fits into my narrative. And that's not how we treat people, for one. That's not how we apply things in the world of healthcare, in the world of science. We don't cherry pick what we can and can't do out of things, and we don't cherry pick facts of when they apply to our big picture. The fact is that a pregnancy that is not yours in your physical body does not affect you, but a virus that is coughed onto you from from another person's body does affect you.
I think that's a very good argument. It really is, and I think that that's definitely something to get people to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So so for I think we're going to conclude today's episode about that, but we want everyone. So please comment on YouTube your thoughts. Like I said, we would always be open to having anybody on the show who has a good opinion, but we first just like to read the thoughts first. I have the link to our Facebook group and to our website. We'd love for you to join Humanists in Healthcare. It's a fledgling organization. We're also going to have we also have our PayPal on the link below. We would love for you to donate. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. I'm also going to post some links to organizations such as American Atheists, Freedom from Religion Foundation, who I already know are getting some stuff together to fight this, even though it does seem kind of hard. I also suggest, and I know I always get in trouble for saying this, but look at the Satanic Temple. I do not worship Satan. I have to always follow that up, but they are very big ones for support on this issue. And so, if you are somebody who's in Texas, whether you're a healthcare worker, not healthcare worker, we want to hear your story. We want to hear how it is for you and just experiences. Like, seriously, please. So this concludes our episode. We'll see. We'll see you guys next week. Hopefully, Jonathan will be joining us, and we'll have our first episode with the three of us. I know it's we've done it kind of back to back, but you get all your three hosts. All right. All right. So it's a